So on today's video, we're going to talk about cross-border accidents, and in particular, when Ontario residents or Canadians are injured in the United States. The one thing with Canadians is they love to travel, particularly within the United States. And we've had the pleasure of working with attorneys throughout the continental United States, certainly the borders with Ontario, such as Michigan and New York, but also snowbird destinations like Florida, Arizona, California, and pretty well everywhere in between. When a Canadian is injured in a given state in the United States in the context of a car accident, if they're from Ontario and have an Ontario auto policy, they will have certain rights under their Ontario auto insurance policy. And the good thing about Ontario's auto insurance policies is that with few exceptions, you have very similar rights whether your accident occurred in the province of Ontario, your home jurisdiction, or if it occurred in one of the other provinces or even one of the United States. Those are your first party or your no-fault benefits. So for an Ontario resident, they will have their no-fault benefits whether they're injured in a car or if they're a cyclist, even if walking and getting struck by a car, or if they're a passenger in a car. And it doesn't even matter if your Ontario car has any involvement whatsoever. Your car could be sitting in your garage in Ontario. You could take a flight, land in Orlando, Florida, be walking across the street and get hit by a car, and you will still have rights under your Ontario auto insurance policy. And a lot of lawyers in the United States that may be representing a Canadian might not even know that. For the Ontario resident, they have their no-fault benefits, which are called accident benefits. And in fact, the Ontario resident will have the right, in many circumstances, to elect. So that means they'll be given the choice between Ontario benefits, as if the accident occurred right in their home jurisdiction, or electing the benefits of the U.S. state or other province where the accident in fact occurred. And so that's a careful analysis that has to be taken to evaluate which benefits are better for the injured party in the circumstances. In addition, the injured party may have the right to advance a lawsuit against the at-fault party. When it's a cross-border lawsuit, a common circumstance that we see in our practice is that the at-fault party might not have adequate insurance, and sometimes might not have any insurance at all. Canadians are often surprised that in many of the U.S. states, the policy limits are much lower than what the standard auto insurance policy limits are here in Ontario. So the minimum limit in a province like Ontario are $200,000, but in fact, most people are carrying limits of $1 million and very often $2 million. In the United States, on the other hand, most of the states have much lower limits than Ontario. And so it's not uncommon to see limits of $25,000 or less in the United States. And so for a Canadian injured in the United States, especially if healthcare is required while there, it becomes obvious really quickly that the at-fault party's policy limits, that means the car that caused the accident, are inadequately insured. They just don't have enough insurance to cover the medical bills, the pain and suffering, and any other damages, harms, or losses sustained. And so those become underinsured claims. And so very often we will work with lawyers throughout the United States to help preserve and protect their client's right to advance an underinsured motorist claim. The underinsured motorist claims for Ontario auto policies are to be commenced in the province of Ontario. So that means if a lawsuit is required, those get filed in the province of Ontario. We've been involved in cases where lawyers in the United States have attempted to include those lawsuits in the jurisdiction where the accident occurred and have been met with motions to dismiss that action summarily because of jurisdiction. From our experience, very, very often, the Canadian insurance company is successful in disputing jurisdiction, having the case dismissed in the U.S. jurisdiction and requiring it to be refiled in Ontario. The quantum of the claim, the value of the claim, is governed by Ontario law, even though the collision itself and the injury occurred in another state. If you are a Canadian resident or an Ontario resident, you've been injured in the United States, you might be wondering, do you need a lawyer in the jurisdiction where the accident occurred or in Ontario? And the short answer is it depends. Sometimes we get calls from people who are just in an accident somewhere in the United States. We will typically do the intake, try to find out the information, at least commence the first party benefits application here. But as we explore the situation with the prospective client and learn about the facts and circumstances of their accident, we can sort of tease out whether or not a lawyer will be required in the state where the accident occurred. Fortunately, because we've been involved in so many cross-border claims in so many different states, we do have a lot of contacts with personal injury attorneys, car accident attorneys in pretty well, if not all of the states, almost all of the U.S. states. People who reach out to us, we can typically sort of tease out the cross-border issues and, where necessary, involve or invite a lawyer from the state where the accident occurred to join us. The benefit to the individual that was injured is you have lawyers that have worked together in the past, that have successfully resolved cross-border cases together, and you're really only paying one fee. There is no duplication of efforts. If certain proceedings need to take place in the U.S. state, our rule would pretty well be supporting that claim in terms of the medical records, the expert reports, the documents that need to be signed in person or commissioned or notarized. Despite the fact that the accident occurred in a U.S. state, sometimes it becomes obvious really early on that the claim will have to proceed actually in Ontario, because either there's insufficient insurance there or sometimes no insurance at all. By way of an example, I'll give you a quick example. Somebody ends up in an accident in Florida. They're admitted to a hospital there where they undergo surgery and they have medical bills of $180,000. The at-fault party has liability insurance of only $25,000. In a circumstance like that, it's really clear that it's an underinsured motorist claim, and the vast majority of the claim will proceed in Ontario. More likely than not, we would be able to get the full limits from the insurance company in the state of Florida, do certain things required to preserve your underinsured motorist claim, and then also bring the claim here, or bring the claim in Ontario, I should say, for the underinsured motorist part. It's also important to note that even if you already have a lawyer handling your claims against the at-fault party, we welcome you or your lawyer to reach out to us and see if there's other insurance available to you in Ontario that maybe you're not maximizing. So that could be accident benefits or underinsured motorist claims. So you might want to have those conversations with your lawyer in the US and then reach out to us. We're happy to talk and see if there's any additional benefits that you may be able to obtain in Ontario. I hope you found this topic informative. We appreciate you watching and tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Our contact details are located in the show notes below. Thanks again.